Good afternoon from Los Angeles and happy Friday. It's Alissa, Coram, and Ken Shreve here with a look at the stock market today. And on today's show, we're going to be taking a look at Trade Desk, following up to see how it closed the session. Also, Planet Fitness, Mimecast, and a preview of Palo Alto ahead of its quarterly report next week. But first, a look at the major indexes. We finished up higher across the board after a little bit of a dip in the afternoon, closing back near session highs. The Nasdaq finishing up the day 0.9%. The S&P 500 and Dow up more than 0.6% each. So a strong session to cap off the week.
Yeah, I mean, the Nasdaq closed right at pretty much at its session high. But like you said, during the last hour or in afternoon trading anyway, it was a little bit kind of volatile back and forth action. Of course, President Trump met with China's vice premier on trade talks. And then there was a headline late in the day that special counsel Robert Mueller will not be filing his Russia report with the Attorney General next week. So I think the market might have breathed a sigh of relief there. But a good close for the Nasdaq and good volume behind the Nasdaq, coming in higher than what we saw Thursday. So a nice day of accumulation for the tech index.
Yeah, and we're finally seeing a close above that 7,500 level.
Pretty strong close for the Nasdaq today. And again, we've been talking about the desire to see lower volume declines and higher volume gains, and that's exactly what we got yesterday. A lower volume decline and to a nice volume behind the Nasdaq today, closed near session high.
All right, so far so good. And looking at Trade Desk, that stock closed the session up almost 32% in massive volume, so able to hold those early gains and extend gains throughout the session, gapping up on earnings. A strong quarterly report from the commercial services advertising stock here. So always great to see those gains holding throughout the day and a close near the top of the range.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually, I think, crossed the 200 level for a period of time today, but definitely a close near session highs. This was kind of a good indication that this stock was going to close strongly today. Just after the stock opened, you looked at the 5-minute intraday chart, you look at a 5-minute bar for Trade Desk, and it was kind of holding gains during the first 5 minutes of trading. And when a stock does that, it can give you an idea that the gap is going to hold throughout the day, and Trade Desk did exactly that. So another quarter
early indicator.
Yeah, another quarter of really strong growth at Trade Desk, good solid close, and just a massive move for the stock today.
That's right. And a little bit later, we'll talk about what type of action we'd like to see after gap ups like this. So stay tuned for that later in the show. But we're going to talk about Planet Fitness now, reversing lower today, erasing all of its gains. It opened up almost 6% today. Positive commentary from Jefferies, an upgrade. And Jefferies cited, quote, an Amazonian business model that it would be able to stave off competition, but not a great finish at all for Planet Fitness.
Yeah, and right when the stock opened, again, this was an example where the 5-minute bar really didn't look all that good because the stock was not able to hold on to its gains. So it was sort of a tale of two 5-minute bars between Trade Desk, which was bullish, and Planet Fitness, which wasn't so bullish right after the close. But this was ugly price action today. And again, very positive comments from Jefferies, upgraded the stock to buy. We're going to hear from Planet Fitness next week. They report earnings, but very disappointing price action for the bulls today. It tried to break out over a 59.62 buy point, but you can see a nasty reversal lower. Still a very well-run company, gaining a lot of market share. Planet, again, this Amazonian business model, they're kind of, immune to competition and really executing nicely, but kind of a bearish performance for the stock today.
Yeah, that's right. Strong fundamentals, so we'll have to see how the quarterly report shakes out next week. But now we want to look at a Mimecast in the computer software security group, holding its gains after a breakout on earnings earlier this month. That day on the earnings report, it rose some 14%. So a great example of the type of post-earnings action that we want to see with those gap ups.
Yeah, so many stocks in the security software group acting very, very well. You know, we've talked about the strength in enterprise software stocks, a lot of good earnings reports there. Same with security software stocks. So Mimecast, I think they reported last week, but you can see how the stock, we look at the chart here and you see how the stock gapped up, and it has just kind of held those gains smartly. I don't even think it's barely taken out the low on the day that it gapped up. So this is really picture perfect price action to see after a stock gaps up in price. When you see strength like this, it can often give an additional entry point. So we'll see if Mimecast can continue to hold these gains. It could form a little base up here, and but just really, really good price action after the gap up on earnings.
Indeed, and we'll be getting earnings results next week from cybersecurity peer Palo Alto Networks, carving up the right side of a base with earnings due next week. It's about 4% below the prior high here, and if we see positive results, you know, we've seen strong double-digit growth on the top and bottom lines from Palo Alto for quite a few quarters here now. Maybe we'll see a gap up too from a group peer of Mimecast. Yeah,
I mean, this is a stock that's always sold at a high multiple because it has a very consistent track record of big earnings and sales growth. Annual estimates still look very good at Palo Alto Networks. It does have an accumulation distribution rating of A-, and that is helped by a lot of higher volume price gains as the stock has built the right side of its base here. So obviously a lot of optimism headed into earnings. Next week is going to be really busy. I mean, fourth quarter earnings season is pretty much over with, but there's a lot of growth stocks reporting next week, so we'll be watching Palo Alto Networks closely.
That's right. Definitely one to keep an eye on as next week comes up, and we really appreciate you joining us today. And just a reminder that this will now be our flagship daily show as far as your daily stock market news and analysis, so make sure you are tuning in at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern each and every day, and make sure you're subscribed to those live notifications across social media. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. That's where we go live, and we also have a presence on Instagram, so make sure you're following and subscribing for all the latest. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.